The players have won, beating back some heinous monetization changes that were going to impact RuneScape. Not old school RuneScape, the other one, RuneScape 3. It is a win for MMORPGs everywhere because, yet again, the player base has decided resoundingly that they do not like this. Kind of. Even in light of this victory against a proposed change, something that they're rolling back right now, there is an undercurrent of shadow going on through the entire market of gaming in general, as well as primarily the MMORPG genre. Let's get into it and talk about these changes that RuneScape was going to make and has since backed off on. Jagex made a pretty big blunder recently. They announced their Hero Pass, and with it came some pretty egregious changes that met with fiery and relentless backlash from the RuneScape 3 player base. This Reddit post from the Poet of Nothing gives a snapshot of the reaction in a post titled Hero Pass, the most pay-to-win and destructive update ever released to RuneScape. The Reddit post goes on to detail that out of the 101 Premier exclusive rewards, 61 of them are considered pay to win by the author, with things like underworld emblems, experience boosts, and negative 20% damage reductions. Especially that last one, that sounds pretty bad, a massive change, especially when you consider that there's already a subscription for RuneScape. Something that is brought up in this forum post over on the RuneScape forums. I find myself now in the position, even as a paying monthly subscriber, that I am weaker in that instance, taking an additional 20% damage from an NPC monster over someone who has more disposable income to purchase Hero Pass, plus optional skips to breeze through the content easier than myself. I mean, that's rough. That's just really a tough thing to consider. I can't think of another game that has done something quite like this. It feels like it is pushing the envelope a little bit. But there's good news, right? Because Jagex actually backed off on all this. They saw the feedback and they're like, wait, no, this is too much. We're going to back up a little bit. They'll be removing some of the pay-to-win features, such as being able to purchase Hero Pass levels or underworld emblems. The Hero Pass content buffs have been removed completely, and XP buffs have moved off the Premier track and onto the regular track. They've gone even further by offering refunds to players who upgraded to the Premium Pass, and will presumably be upset with the muted version. But it begs this question that always comes up when you see something like this happen. Why? Why do this? Why did Jagex decide to try this in the first place? And it kind of reminds me of Diablo Immortal, and how when Diablo Immortal came out and the monetization was so bad that it almost felt a little bit like live research about what players are willing to accept, not for Diablo Immortal, but for Diablo 4. What would they be able to tolerate in game? What kind of monetization would they be able to push and still maintain at least a decent player base? I think gaming companies in general know now that there are certain things that are going to piss off certain members of the gaming community regardless, and there's things that others will accept. If you look at one of my favorite games, EverQuest, for example, they have the whole market on pay for convenience pretty much down to a science. They'll give you 25% experience potions, and most people are okay with it. But then there's a portion of the people that will not be okay with it at all and see that as pay to win. I think that's kind of what gaming companies are trying to do. They're trying to find, where is the line? Where is the line where they can continue to push monetization and still keep a majority of players, if not happy, at least tolerant? And I think that's what happened here. Is Jagex tried to push that line and found the line that they had passed where the players were not tolerant anymore. They were pissed off, and it was going to eventually have a very negative effect on the game. That's kind of what we saw with Diablo Immortal. It had a negative long-term effect on the game, and while it did serve its purpose and it worked for them, you saw that when Diablo 4 came out, A lot of those things that were in Immortal were not in 4. But I think what makes this stand out a little bit is that it's coming from one of the current darlings of the MMO community, Jagex. Jagex having this really bad PR with a push for pay to win in RuneScape. I mean, well, in RuneScape 3, not old school RuneScape. It's a little bit disheartening to see. Just like for many older school players, it's disheartening to see games like World of Warcraft and EverQuest embrace the Chrono in EverQuest or the WoW token in World of Warcraft. I mean, the fact that they added the WoW token to classic WoW pissed off a lot of people, just like having Chronos on progression servers does the exact same thing. But there is a clear incentive for those companies to encourage that because it works for them. Is a large portion of the player base that makes use of it. And the theories go that if they didn't have that kind of thing, it would probably be happening anyway. It'd just be happening on third-party websites instead of basically the gaming company getting a cut of that normal pay for gold type thing, which is essentially what WoW tokens and Chrono is. But if there is a silver lining to this, it's that player feedback is still important. Without the pushback from the RuneScape 3 community, these changes would have gone through. I highlighted these two responses from the community because they were helpful critiques. They broke down the changes and explained why they were bad. I thought that was a great way for players that are passionate about the games that they're playing to try and prevent a harmful change that would be long-term detrimental to the game, actually providing some kind of evidence as why, providing a coherent argument against it. Not just saying that pay to win is bad, which a lot of people will agree with, but isn't as easy a sell to people that are going to be potentially profiting from pay to win. But I want to hear from you. What do you think of the RuneScape Hero Pass and the recent backing off of Jagex from implementing it the way they had originally planned to implement it? What do you think this means for the larger MMO genre or gaming genre in general, as we seem to be moving more and more towards battle passes, game passes in pretty much everything? Even EverQuest essentially has one, just in a much more muted way by adding an optional subscription on top of their subscription for a couple extra dollars a month. Okay, quick interruption to the flow here because this actually happened after I'd already recorded this video, but I wanted to include this because it is tied to RuneScape and it might have some big implications going forward. We're still in the dark about that though. Reuters is reporting that Jagex might actually be looking at being sold. The Carlyle Group, which currently owns Jagex, is potentially considering selling Jagex, which is rumored to be worth around $1 billion total dollars. Jagex was only purchased about 2 years ago, so this would just be another in a long history of Jagex being sold. But this could change a lot, but it could also be something to look at, especially with a bunch of decisions happening, because when selling is on the mind, one of the things that you're going to be wanting to do is make sure that your game or your company is looking as good to potential buyers as it possibly could. Whether that's looking at PR or looking at revenue is up for debate, and I'm not the person to debate that because I don't understand that shit. It should be noted that a sale doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. After all, one of my favorite games, EverQuest, actually benefited from their most recent sale because when they were under Columbus Nova, it was basically just free bleeding, lots and lots of lawsuits, and just a bunch of terrible shit happening. And then they got purchased by EG7, which may or may not have just basically been like staunching the wound, but at least it's not bleeding out all over the floor anymore. It's just something to keep in mind and something to watch that this may be coming down the pipe. If you want to dive deeper into pay to win, which and see my thoughts on the subject and really like what I kind of look at it with, the pay to win versus pay to convenience and everything like that. I covered that back months ago for Diablo Immortal and how it was going to impact the genre. You can see that video here and you can actually see if I'm onto something with this or not. My name is Redbeard Flynn. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day that is free from microtransactions. Shit.